This is Lab 1.1, getting started with Python on your own computer. So we're going to use the Anaconda distribution, which comes from Anaconda Incorporated rather than directly from python.org or some other organization. Anaconda Incorporated is a commercial enterprise that combines many data analytic tools into a single program that can be easily downloaded and installed on the three major operating systems. Once you navigate to anaconda.com in a browser, go ahead and look for a download button. This website will probably change over time, but in this case here, it's this free download button, so I will go ahead and click on that. And the browser should detect what type of operating system you are using. And you can see here that I am using a Mac, and there's a drop-down arrow, and there are options here. So this is an older Mac, so I'll go ahead and just select this download for Mac Intel. Click that, and you can see that now it is downloading. Okay, so you can see that it just finished downloading. I got a message saying it has downloaded. It's a pretty large file. It's about 800 megabytes. I'll go ahead and open up the installer. This will look a little bit different if you're using a Windows operating system, but it should be pretty much the same process. So I'll go ahead and allow this to install, and we can just go ahead and accept the default settings here. Now you'll notice that this is a pretty big program. It'll take up 5.25 gigabytes of space on your computer. So that's maybe the one downside of Anaconda, is that it's huge and it has a lot of software that you probably won't need initially. But it does make it easier because this process is the same whether you're using a Mac or a Windows operating system. Later on, as you become more familiar with Python, you may want to remove this version and install Python using the python.org website. But anyway, let's go ahead and continue going through the installation process. I'll click the install button. Okay, now it looks like we will have to wait about 5 minutes, so I will go ahead and come back when that's done. All right, the installer has finished installing Anaconda, and we'll go ahead and click continue, and I'll click close, and I will move the installer to the trash. I will also move these pop-up windows that have shown up on my screen. So here's the navigator. That's the key one. I'll come back and talk about that. There's also this update application prompting me that I should update right now. And so I will go ahead and click that. And that will close out of Anaconda, and we'll come back once it is finished updating. All right, once you've finished installing the Anaconda navigator, you should go ahead and launch it. And if you have closed it and don't know how to launch it, you should be able to find it just like any other application on your machine. So I'm on a Mac here. If I go to my program launcher, I can see Anaconda Navigator there, or if I search for it, I can find it like that. If you're on a Windows, it'll look a little different, but should be pretty familiar. All right, once you open up this navigator here, you can see that we've got a lot of different business analytic tools that we can use. The one that we want to verify that you have right now is Spyder, S-P-Y-D-E-R. So let's go ahead and open this by clicking the launch button. All right, perfect. So you can see that Spyder has launched on this machine, and it has a file here that I was working on already. I'll just X out of that. Actually, your first time, you'll see a prompt to take a tour. And then you'll have a blank file over here in the editor that's either untitled.py or temp.py. Nothing in the Variable Explorer window. And then the console is what we're going to focus on right now. This is where we can verify everything for this lab. So you can see the first message that we have is the version of Python that is being used in this environment right here. This is Python 3.11.5, which was released on September 11th, 2023. Python is the language, and Spyder is just the environment or the workshop in which we're going to create Python code. All right, so to verify that Python is working, you should also type out 5 times 3 and hit enter, and you should get 15. And this just verifies that, hey, not only do you have Python installed, but it is performing some computations. A very simple computation here. And just by way of a little explanation, you can see that the first input here that Python is evaluating is 5 times 3, and the output of that is 15. And now it's waiting for a second input right here. All right, so perfect. We've got Python up and running. We've got Spyder up and running. Let's also verify that we have Pandas installed on this computer, and we'll talk more about Pandas later on. But to make sure it's installed, we want to type out import pandas, and then we typically type out as PD. We'll talk more about why that's important later. So once you type that out, type enter, and if you don't get an error, it means Pandas is installed on your machine, and you can now access all the functions in Pandas. So at this point, you just want to take a screenshot of your whole environment here so we can see that it's installed on your machine, because up in the top left here you can see the file location here. And then this is the screenshot you should submit to verify that everything is installed on your machine. And you are now ready to start using Python for performing business analytic tasks. And this completes Lab 1.1.